right, Assalamu alaikum again, everyone. Good evening. Ramadan Kareem wa Mabruk alaykum al-shahr. Thank you so much for taking time out of your very precious evening, especially during a month like Ramadan when we usually spend it with family and friends and spend time reflecting and connecting with our faith. So thank you so much for taking the time to join us here this evening. My name is Khulood Al Alatiyat, and I'm a member of the MISA team. And before we get started, I'd like to tell you a little bit more about MISA in case you're new to MISA and new to the Talk of the Neighborhood. MISA is an innovation-led and community-based neighborhood that is rooted in the legacy of Mina Zayed. The late Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan established this port as a place of meaningful livelihood and meaningful work and connection, while bringing the world to Abu Dhabi. And today at MISA, we come together to celebrate that history and legacy and invent what's next, taking Abu Dhabi to the world. And the Talk of the Neighborhood is MISA's conversation series that brings our community together to engage and share thoughts, insights on topics that intrigue and interest us. And tonight's topic of choice is Journey to Mars, Space Missions and Their Reflections on UAE Society. Now, when we talk about space exploration, it can sometimes feel very distant, overwhelming, sometimes scary and mysterious. We talk about rockets, we talk about Mars and deep space, things that seem far removed from our everyday lives. But tonight, we're asking an even bigger question. Why does reaching for Mars matter here on Earth? Because this isn't just about planets. It's about us. It's about people. It's about innovation, collaboration, national ambition, and the kind of future that we're building here at MISA and in the UAE. From human missions to technological breakthroughs, from global partnerships to the next generation of talent, the story is unfolding now, and we are all part of it. So let's dive in. But before we begin, I'd like to introduce you to our speakers tonight. I have the honor and pleasure to be joined by three incredible people: Dr. Noora Rashed Al Saeed, Ed Obrian, and Dr. Ozan Kara. So please join me in welcoming them tonight. Allow me a few more minutes to tell you a little bit more about our speakers tonight. I'll begin with Dr. Noora Rashed Al Saeed, who is a senior space science researcher at the UAE Space Agency and principal investigator of the Emirates Mars mission. She holds a PhD in astrophysics and planetary sciences from the University of Colorado in Boulder. And her work focuses on Mars and advancing the UAE's space science ambitions while also encouraging the next generation of Arab scientists. Ed Obrian is the Space Affairs Attaché at the US Embassy in the United Arab Emirates, where he works to connect all aspects of the US and UAE space sectors, including cooperation on human spaceflight, lunar explorations, deep space missions, university research, satellite manufacturing, and emerging fields such as healthcare. Ed holds a BA and MA degrees from the University of Nebraska and has taught at the National Foreign Affairs Training Center in Washington, D.C. And Dr. Ozan Kara is a lead rocket systems engineer at the Technology Innovation Institute's Propulsion and Space Research Center, specializing in hybrid rocket propulsion. He has contributed to pioneering work, including experimental testing for Mars ascent vehicles using CO2-based propulsion. Dr. Kara is also an award-winning space leader and an active contributor to multiple international space organizations. So please join me in welcoming them again. All right, let's begin the conversation tonight. And I would like to start it from a more personal place before we go out to space. And this question is addressed to all of you, so any one of you can begin answering it. But when we talk about personal journeys, I'm sure that each one of you has taken a unique path to the world of space that has led you to where you are today. Can you tell us a little bit about your journeys? Was this a childhood dream? Was it a carefully planned career? Or was it something that just unfolded in an unexpected manner?
Ladies first, all right, thank you. First of all, thank you for hosting this wonderful event. I love this setup, this is great. My apologies to you in the back.
You'll get used to it eventually.
Okay.
I was saying it feels a bit weird and awkward to give my back to people, but eventually it's okay.
All right, so for how I got to where I got here right now, yes, it is a childhood thing, the typical cliche. I was always curious, I was always a nerd. But really what it was is that I always asked questions and I wanted my job to be asking questions. And so I knew that I wanted to be a scientist since I was very young. But how I ended up specifically doing space sciences and planetary sciences and astrophysics and so on was a bit of being in the right place at the right time. So I started as my bachelor's in mathematics because I'm like, mathematics is the language of science. I can do all of the sciences that I want in the future. I'm not going to limit myself. And so I did my degree in mathematics, and I happened to be able to enroll in the senior level classes before everyone else, purely out of chance. They made a mistake in the way that I could sign up. And I ended up being part of the Astronomy 101 class, which usually fills up because everybody loves space, as you all are a testament to that. And so I was the only freshman in that class, and I was able to work with my professor. He saw how enthusiastic I was about the topic, that he invited me to work on a project with him to search for places in the UAE that we can build, or sorry, in the Middle East and Northern African region that we can build observatory sites from. And we did that. It ended up, this was in 2013, 2014. And this ended up becoming a published paper, and he saw this fire in me and he lit it, he nurtured it. And around the same time, 2014, is when the UAE was whipping up this plan to go to Mars. And they went around to all the universities in the country and they asked each university to nominate a few students. And my professor said, "خذوها." She is ready to be a part of this research experience for undergraduates in the US. And my CV, I was a freshman in university, I didn't have a CV, but this one project kind of propelled me into many different places, and I ended up doing this research experience. And the Space Center then offered to sponsor my studies all the way until I graduated my bachelor's. I told them I wanted to study even further. The professors around in the US encouraged me to apply for a PhD. I did. I didn't think I could. I thought scientists came out of the ether. I didn't know that I could be a scientist. And the rest is history. I ended up kind of following the waves where they took me. Yeah. Long-winded answer, but.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Any other stories?
Okay, I will continue.
Is your mic? Yeah, I think you need to.
I think that's fine. Thank you again, Khulood, for the nice introduction, and I see very excited community here from all ages. So we are very glad to be with you and try to inspire you about space. So actually, my career or all my life has unfolded like a puzzle pieces. I mean, almost everyone in this room was curious about space when we were child. Like, it's for sure. Or at least aliens. So we were curious about, oh, today aliens are coming to the Earth. It started, of course, with this. But step by step, when I move on my life, and you have the realities like university exams and etc. When I finished my university entrance exams, I had a speech with my father. We had a construction company, very classical in Istanbul, that family business. But we were always, I mean, I was always curious about the science and technology. And my father encouraged me a lot to achieve something more. So that inspiration led me to enter a university, aerospace engineering, and after that it was like a puzzle pieces. I was so active at the university. Just also my advice to the young people here: be active, be curious, and follow to solve the questions. So I was like this at the university, and I joined the projects in the satellite rocket projects. By the time, like step by step, I found myself in the environment of doing the rockets in the test and launching the rockets. And it was like a destiny for me, to be honest.
That's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing that. And now that you've mentioned aliens, you're going to have to tell us at some point if they're real or not. So,
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Ed, would love to hear from you as well.
Well, and obviously I have like my esteemed colleagues that have doctor in front of their name, or they're really who I thought of as space, scientists, people that worked in space, and so I loved space growing up. I grew up on a farm in the middle of nowhere, so we had a beautiful view of the sky, and I grew up watching stars, but there really wasn't anything else. I had no idea how to pursue anything. I was good at math, but probably not as good as Nora, and when I went to university, so I kind of gave up on space. Like, it wasn't something that I could pursue. It was too big. I thought, well, you could be an astronaut or a rocket science, and that was it. And so I became a diplomat, and it's been an amazing career, and by chance, almost everywhere I've gone, I've got to work on some space-related sort of projects, and they've kind of grown and grown, and then amazingly, the State Department said, we want to have a space attaché. And again, I thought, well, that's going to go to some rocket scientist, some diplomat, somebody who's done this, and miraculously, I ended up getting to this, and so I'm the only space attaché in the entire world for the U.S. State Department. This is the first place we've ever done it. And it's crazy, and I tell people, but I am supremely qualified because, I went to space camp, and it wasn't even the real space camp because I lived in tiny Kansas, but we had a cool space camp. We got to go to Houston, we saw a space shuttle, and so yeah, it's really, and so I think if nothing else, it's I'm hopefully a model that, you should absolutely pursue those kind of technical scientific things if that's you're capable, but if not, there's still paths to pursue in space, and we'll talk more about that, I think.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, it sounds like for all three of you, it's a combination of planned and as well as moments that might have been unexpected, but you were prepared for them because of the passions that you had, because of the fascinations that you had, and the education that you pursued as well. So it sounds like it's a combination of both. I want to take it from kind of personal journeys and personal ambitions and dreams to national ambitions and dreams, and specifically to the UAE's space ambition. Again, a question to all three of you. Let's talk a little bit about the UAE. This is a country that has made remarkable strides in space and in a relatively short period of time as well. So from your perspectives, I'd love to hear, what is the UAE's long-term vision when it comes to space exploration? And what role does it play on the global scene? And what makes the UAE's approach distinctive? I mean, you mentioned, Ed, that you are the only space attaché, and it happens to be here in the UAE. So why is that? What's special about the UAE's approach that requires us to have a space attaché with the UAE, with the U.S. Embassy?
Well, yeah, it's a great story, and I think Nora and Ozan can fill in a lot of gaps. But I mean, like, my favorite thing to talk about when I think about UAE is that you're a very young country still. You're developing, and there's some amazing pictures of Sheikh Zayed in the 1970s when the Apollo astronauts came over to visit him and brought models of the space shuttle. And it was really inspiring, and it didn't just happen once, it happened several times, and he was really, started that vision, and, the US, we were very proud to have been along, that whole journey, and the fact that, so much is done. But really the story I love to tell is that when a lot of countries were building CubeSats, that's the common way that people start in space. They build it's literally about the size of this thing, but it's a satellite, and you can put it on a rocket, and you can send it up, and it takes pictures, and it's an amazing achievement, honestly. Like, anybody who does that, any countries who do that. But the UAE said, we can go a little bit more. And Nora's got a spacecraft around Mars that she controls. That's the kind of thing that the UAE did, that ambition plus. And, they've had astronaut missions. The next mission is going to go to the asteroids. We're going to the moon together. The UAE is contributing a module to a space station we're building around the moon. And eventually, the UAE has said that they want to have an Emirati walk on the moon, along with NASA. And so, so really the UAE has decided that space is a priority, and we're very proud that we can, support that and be a part of that.
That's amazing. Thank you. Anything else you'd like to add, Dr.
Yeah,
Noora?
I'll add to that this was intentional. It's intentional that we wanted to pick a mission that was an interplanetary, really difficult mission, because we saw how Apollo invigorated the space sector in the US in a way that was, if you ask any professor who's in their 60s, 70s right now in the US, what got them to a professor in space physics or astro or aerospace engineering, almost all of them will say, we watched the moon landing. We watched the Apollo mission. We saw that. It was a big national movement. Even though at the time that was happening, it was very constrained to the Cold War and had military aspects and all that, but it did have this effect of building capabilities through inspiration, and the effect was very long. It took a while to build up that thing, and we wanted to do the same thing here. And something like the Emirates Mars mission, it's meant to build capabilities and to really invigorate the space sector in a way that is more than what a CubeSat mission could do potentially. So it was an intentional choice.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I can also add unity in this ambition that Ed mentioned about the missions, ambitious missions that UAE is focusing on rather than the smaller missions. And also Noora explained the inspiration of the ecosystem. So unity is also important because, in my opinion, the definition of space is like an ecosystem that unites different level of people and different level of backgrounds as we are here now, all together. So rocket scientist, Mars engineer, space attaché, and everyone from different backgrounds. So that reflects to the UAE. UAE choose the missions in a long term that unites different technologies that address the key solutions, specifically for rockets. We do have development in the key technology using the AI, using the new propulsion systems to address what is needed in the long term. So this is, I think, one of the good examples in the long-term journey of the space in the UAE.
Thank you so much. And I think that also, kind of commenting and building on what you're talking about, Dr. Noora, is that when we think about the UAE's efforts and what the UAE is doing today, I appreciate and love what you talked about when it comes to preparing the next generation and inspiring the next generation. And we see it happening in a way that is a systems building way, because it is not just about the work that's happening at the Space Center. It's not just about the work that's happening in schools and education. It is really a multi-pronged approach that has an impact across multiple areas of work and can also help connect the future generations with those aspirations.
I can add numbers to showcase just how much we've come along. So the Mars mission was announced 2014. It reached Mars 2020. We got to orbit 2021. And so it's been over a decade of this plan coming to fruition. When I started looking for bachelor's degrees, there were no astrophysics or astronomy even. Even in AUS where I studied, there was no physics degree. It was just mathematics. I wanted to study physics. Since then, there are now at least 6 different degrees that you can get in the country. There are 4 research centers that are for either space sciences or astrophysics. And then the amount of startups and companies and tech-related companies in the UAE that are space-related, I can't even count them right now. There used to be none, and now there are, or 1 or 2, and now there are like hundreds. So it's incredible just how far along we've come, and I think that something like the Emirates Mars mission or that dedicated effort is what was able to get us there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. Really, really incredible strides that we have taken. I'd like to talk about and move the conversation a little bit about the human's journey, the human's literal journey to Mars. And the question I'd like to ask, and maybe ask you, Dr. Noora and Dr. Ozan, this question. When we talk about the journey to Mars, it sounds super exciting, very thrilling. One that I'm sure many people here in the room maybe aspire to take one day. I don't know if that would be possible in our lifetime or not, but what does that actually mean in practical terms? Can we talk about what does it mean to journey to Mars? And give us examples about potentially what impact could it have on the human body, or kind of some practical examples that we can understand. Okay. Who would like to go first?
Okay, this time I will go.
Please.
In my opinion, the journey to Mars will be a challenge to test our limits of the technology. It will be a challenge to worth the risk, because it will be a journey to push our limits in all aspects. That's a practical term in my opinion. Of course, it's not easy, but the ecosystem, the space ecosystem is focusing on different technologies to make it happen, such as the rocket propulsion systems. That Starship rocket by SpaceX will be a huge impact. NASA has the SLS rockets, and many other different smaller companies developing the subsystems to operate on the Mars. Even in my PhD, I did a practical experiments to use the CO2 in the Mars atmosphere in the rocket. Carbon dioxide is fire extinguisher. All the red bottles in the corners is the carbon dioxide. You cannot burn it, but I burn it. Why? Because CO2 can react with the metals. Keep in mind that if you have a metal fire, don't put the red bottles, CO2 bottles. Be careful on that. So anyway, what I mean is this will be a technological limit. In the human body perspective, in my opinion, so if we go just in a room, like alone, how long can you stay in a room? I mean, I can stay just one hour, right? But journey to Mars is like 7 to 8 months trip from the Earth to the Mars, because you need to wait that 2 planets will come together, closer, in the orbit, and you need to launch your rocket to go. Minimum speaking is 7 to 8 months. So how you will sustain there? Practically, if you are in the ISS space station, your body is changing, because you don't have the gravity that we have now, right? So practically speaking, if you go to space, You don't have the gravity that we have on the Earth. So the disc in your the backbone will open up. So practically 5 to 6 centimeters you will be taller. Or blood circulation will change because your bones doesn't need to be so strong to push the gravity. Then you will lose the calcium in your bones to the blood. Or the fluid shift changes through your head, your eyes changes, you have some cotton wool spots in your eyes. So there are too many things actually to happen to human body, in my opinion. And it will be, to be honest, tricky journey.
That's extremely interesting. And I have a follow-up question, which is, in the case where this could potentially happen to a human body, how does a human body reacclimate or reverse from that when it comes back to Earth? Is that possible?
Lots of back pain. Lots of back pain. I'm pretty sure that I've heard from. We have, okay, we were going to wait until later, but we have an astronaut in the room with us.
Yes.
It's a surprise for you.
It's a surprise. Astronaut Dr. Sian Proctor. I really don't want to answer this question when we have a literal astronaut in the room with us. So if you don't mind, if you don't mind if I pass you the mic just to answer this question.
Introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Sian Proctor, and I was the mission pilot for Inspiration 4, the first all-civilian mission to orbit the Earth. So in 2021, I got to spend 3 days in space, and I became the first woman commercial spaceship pilot. Thank you. And the only African-American woman to ever be a mission pilot. And yes, my back hurts. Hasn't been the same since I've gone to space. But you can recover. We put a lot of effort into how to mitigate some of the things that were being mentioned about the changes. But everybody, it doesn't matter who you are, when you go to space, you're going to have space adaptation in some way. Because of the lack of gravity, fluids are going to shift, your headache, you might feel a little nauseous, your elongation of your spine, all of these kinds of things. But what we've been learning from all of the astronauts that go into low Earth orbit is that exercise and with the way your nutrition and there's different things that you can do to help mitigate that. But when you come back from to 1G here on Earth, what happens is that your back goes back, you compress back down to your normal size.
So you don't keep the height?
You're taller in space, and so. But depending on how long you're in space will determine how long your recovery is. And so those astronauts, the NASA astronauts are spending, 6, 8, 9, a year up on the International Space Station, it will take them like a year to recover and if they can fully recover. Because sometimes the changes that happen to maybe like your vision and your eyeballs doesn't go back. And so, but these are the things that we are trying to figure out how the human body works in these extreme environments. And to go to Mars, there are a lot of challenges, including the radiation that you'll be exposed to. So I think from a standpoint of a rocket scientist here, thinking about how do we shorten that time? What kind of fuels can we create or propulsion systems that will go from this 6 to 8 month journey and maybe cut it down to 3 months or 2 months that make it so that you're not spending as much time in that harsh environment of space. But when you get to Mars, Mars is a third of Earth's gravity. And so being able to deal with that. But we do have a lot of challenges, but when we solve for space, we solve for Earth. And as we learn all of these things about the changes in the human body, and as we push ourselves to find the new technologies and be efficient in ways of living in these harsh, extreme environments, all of that technology is created here, and it spins off to make us more sustainable long term. So solving for space is solving for Earth.
Incredible. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Sian, for this. And so, in a way, kind of building on this and following up a little bit, if those are some of the realities about being in space and going to Mars, how realistic is it that humans could one day live on Mars? Is that even possible? What have we discovered so far that has proven to us there has been maybe signs of present or past life on Mars, or that there could be life on Mars?
That's an excellent question. Hate to be going after an astronaut. That's a tough one. But what I am is a Mars scientist, so I can at least tell you a little bit about that. So Mars, how many of you know what the temperature is on Mars? Can anyone guess? Do you think
Mind you,
do you think
Dr.
it's
Noora.
hotter or colder? Colder.
What's the
depends.
temperature on Mars?
Okay. We have a guess here. Hotter,
Colder?
colder.
Okay.
It's hotter, colder.
Colder.
Okay. I love this. This is
Yeah.
awesome. Sorry, I went into like teacher mode right now. But yes, so it is in fact colder. Even when it is on its hottest day, it doesn't reach up more than maybe 20 degrees Celsius.
Okay.
And that's like the hottest,
day. What about the
Most
coldest day?
of the rest of the year, your average is below zero for sure. Like you are at a really, really cold temperature. And there's no atmosphere, or whatever atmosphere does exist is extremely thin. It's like 1,000 times less dense than the air outside that we have. There's no oxygen that is enough for a human to breathe. It's mostly CO2. So you can't just be walking around without a spacesuit and the thermal shield and a lot of oxygen that you're carrying around. So to live on Mars is something that is extremely difficult. It is easier to live on Antarctica than it is to live on Mars. I mean, and the people in Antarctica are suffering. Yeah. So just to give an idea of what this means. And if you go there, it's not a quick journey to come back. So you need to be able to sustain humans on another planet that's extremely harsh for several months at least until the orbits align again. Can we do that at this current stage with the technology that we have? No, not yet. And it's not really the technology that's necessarily the issue. It's because we're sending a meat bag that is us humans to space, and we have to send everything that keeps us alive with us. So you can easily send robots. The technology to send robots is there. We've been sending robots. But to send a human and everything that it takes to keep a human alive needs way more research and way more work towards getting us there. There's actually a book that I'm going to recommend. I'm going to plug it in. It's a friend of mine, Dr. Kelly Wiener-Smith, called A City on Mars. Please look it up. It's awesome. And it talks about all the details of why. And it's kind of comical. It has a few, like, her husband's a comic artist. So there's a few drawings here and there. I highly recommend it. It has all of the details of why it's not a good idea to be going to Mars just yet. Yeah.
Anything else anyone would like to add?
Well, I can just add a practical example. So as Noora mentioned, to sustain on the Mars as a human is challenging because you don't have also a magnetic field around the Mars that radiation just hits there and you cannot leave. So what we need is oxygen, basically. And CO2 is the main source of the Mars. It's not an oxygen. You need to convert the CO2 to the oxygen. There are some technologies like fuel cells, zirconia cells they call it, a system that make this conversation. But even we have this system on the Mars that try to create that the oxygen level we need one day on Earth, it takes 200 years. So that means that the technology level is not there yet to make this oxygen level to sustain. Yes, maybe we can create some habitats, some camping-wise habitats, inflatable systems and etc. But still, we need to send them from the Earth to the Mars.
Thank you so much. also, thank you so much for bringing up a lot of great topics for us to build on and follow up on. You mentioned something about solutions for space and their relevance on Earth, that they are also things that we end up needing and using on Earth. And this is a topic that we were in our kind of conversation prior talking about wanting to get into. So let's get into it and perhaps hear a little bit about how many technologies that we take for granted today and things that we use in our daily life today actually began as solutions for space missions and for challenges that we face in space exploration. So can you perhaps share with us a few examples of innovations that started in space and now impact our daily life? And maybe, can we hear from you, Ed, first?
Well, I'd like to, because I think Ozan has better examples, but then I would follow with what we're doing now,
Okay.
I think maybe.
Okay. So, yeah, actually, majority of things that we use on the Earth, such as toothpaste, Teflon pan. You probably do omelets in the morning, right? The Teflon pan, you choose the best one. I like the Tefal. It's a nice brand. And tennis racket, dental implants. Actually, these are several examples that came from the research done for the space. For example, the toothpaste, we didn't make the toothpaste just for our teeth because they tried to create an insulation material in the vehicle. Then they changed the chemical and make the toothpaste. It's the same as the dental implant. It was an research done for the astronauts and the Teflon pen as well. When you go to space and try to come back, when you enter the Earth, you have a huge friction that you need to have an extremely durable material to dissipate this friction force. So they created a material for the vehicles that then they change this material they use. Okay, we can use it as a pen. These are some examples actually.
And what's happening now?
Well, so what I like to look at is that when we started going to space, we had no idea what it was going to be like. We had to start somewhere, and so we had to solve these incredibly hard problems. And and everything everybody described, going to space, anybody that works in space will tell you space is trying to kill you at all times. It is just harsh in every way. And it reminded me as Noora was talking and Ozan was, and like why it's so amazing that Earth exists and that we're here, because we have this magical mix of our atmosphere, our magnetosphere, we're the right distance from the sun. Like the number of things that have to go right is really amazing. But on the way here, we use GPS. That was from a satellite. Our phones are probably getting backhaul from satellites. We don't need to look at the weather here very often, but when we do, that's a satellite, right? So much of our daily lives now are from solutions that we came from space. Because, like I say, before we had to solve a really hard problem, and so we created something. Hey, we could use that on Earth too. Now, more and more, we're finding that for daily life, for our economy, for our society, we need the things that space gives us. So those kind of satellite-oriented things that I talked about have been common for the last 20, 30 years. Now we're finding that unique atmosphere, the unique lack of atmosphere in space allows us to do things that we couldn't possibly do on Earth. So some of the most amazing things on the space station, we have a lot of experiments to grow things in space or to make things in space because there's no gravity. When we say no gravity, it's microgravity. There's always a little bit. But the example I always like to think of is they figured out in the 80s on the space station, like a marble or a metal ball, a ball bearing, it feels like it's perfectly round, right? But it's not, because when they make it on Earth, no matter what they do, gravity squishes it a little bit, so it can't be perfectly round. When they made it on the space station, they could make it perfectly round, and that actually helps for certain machines that need to spin really fast. So then they said, well, what else could we do without gravity? And so how many of you kids have grown crystals? You put salt water and you put a string and the crystals grows up it, right? Nobody's done that? Come on, somebody's done that. That's how we make medicine. So most medicines start with a crystal that they grow, and it's a certain kind of protein, it's set up a certain way, and then scientists look at it, and then they can figure out the dosage and how to administer it and lots of things. But on Earth, crystals get squished by gravity. So we started growing them in space, and they grew so much bigger, so much easier to work with, so much easier, and then we figured out, well, we could do other things. We can grow the material that makes fiber optics. On Earth, because you scientists will know this better, but there's a lot of reasons when we make glass on Earth, it gets bubbles because there's hot and cold rising. In space, they can do it, so it's perfect. So we're finding more and more solutions where we can only solve this problem on Earth in space. And I think as right now we're transitioning the International Space Station, it's had an amazing 25 years, and we only have about 5 more years left. So we're switching to private space stations. And really, their business model is to do these kind of things, to make these kind of things. So I hope that more and more things you'll see in your future, whether it's medicines or materials, and even in your jobs, will be connected to space.
This is amazing. Sorry, Dr. Noora, did you have something you wanted to add?
I could add, but no.
Okay. I think it's incredible because my understanding of space exploration was very limited prior to this conversation and preparing for it. And to know that it goes beyond just space exploration for the sake of space exploration, but it is to find actual solutions for challenges that are facing us here on Earth and that could have a great impact on the future that we might experience on Earth across many fields, but especially medicine. I mean, that has opened up my understanding of why is it even important to go to space.
I wanna push back on one tiny thing, which is that humans have long done things that don't have an immediate benefit. And I think that's really important. I think it's really important, especially for like the young people in the room. There's no need for it to have an immediate benefit to humanity that you can think of for it to be something that's worthwhile going into. And if you ask any scientist why they do what they do in space sciences and so on, we do it because we're curious. None of them really do it with the idea of like, yeah, one of these days it's going to help invent some medicine, because you can't predict what's going to come out of it. And so investing in these fields is a necessary part for humanity to make these advancements, because they won't come if we're seeking them out alone. They come out of us casting a wide net of exploration of things that you can't even imagine what benefit they might return. And still pushing for them.
So kind of along those lines, can you tell us a little bit more, Dr. Noora, about the UAE's current projects when it comes to space exploration? I'm sure that many people in the room might know about some of the work that's taking place now, but there's probably a lot that we don't know about and that might have been published and we might have missed, or just we're not in the right kind of contexts that might allow us to know. So if you can share with us a little bit about what is the UAE currently working on and how does it contribute to broaden our ambitions when it comes to space exploration?
Okay. You all know about the Emirates Mars mission, I hope. Okay. Do you know about the Emirates mission to the asteroid belt? Who has heard of that? A few people? So, inshallah, in 2028, we will be launching a mission that will visit 7 asteroids, and it will actually orbit the last of these asteroids. And asteroid belt is the part of our solar system that's between Jupiter and Mars. And it's where all of the rocks that essentially made up the rest of the planets didn't actually form a planet. So they're the raw materials that make up planets. And we're going to be studying them through this mission. We're going to be passing by 6 of them, and on the 7th one, we're going to orbit that. So that's a really exciting mission. Stay tuned, inshallah. We'll be launching soon. There's the Rashed rover that's going to be launching, inshallah, as well, the 2nd Rashed rover. That's doing experiments on materials that on the surface of the moon, how different materials behave with interaction to the lunar regolith. And recently, and I'm very proud of this one, so I want to share it. How many of you have seen this all over the internet about Comet 3i Atlas? Has anyone seen anything about Comet 3i Atlas? I have. Yeah? Raise of hand, I'm just curious. Raise your hand if you've heard about Comet 3i Atlas. Okay. It's a comet that is from outside of the solar system. So it's not a comet. Most of the comets that we see in our night sky are from our own solar system. This is a comet that came from outside the solar system. It's the third ever detected interstellar object, an object from an outside solar system. And because of the position of it moving into our solar system, Mars was a bit closer to it than Earth was when it got really close to the sun. And the Emirates Mars mission actually pointed its cameras and instruments away from Mars and took a picture of it when it got really close to the sun. And we were able to see the breaking down of the comet when all of the things like the gases, the oxygen, the hydrogen was starting to dissipate from it. This is awesome because you're looking at the raw material of an entirely different solar system. We rarely get the chance to see that. And we were able to detect it from the Emirates Mars mission, but so have a lot of different missions that were all of the scientists of the world were just going crazy. They're like, oh, we really want to see this. And of course, there are people on the internet who are like, aliens are visiting us. As a scientist, I can guarantee there's no aliens. It's still cool. You don't need to have aliens involved for it to be cool. So, yeah.
Any learnings that came out of that moment?
So science takes time. This was in October. We're still doing the analysis on it. But one of the things that's weird about this is that it has a bit more carbon monoxide and carbon-based stuff than our comets that we see in the solar system. So it's giving us a little insight on maybe potentially where this comet came from. We can maybe track it back down, but I don't think we're there yet at this point. Yeah.
Thank you. I'd like to talk about the question or talk about a topic when it comes to careers in space and in the field of space. Each one of you has a distinct career, but kind of within the same, let's say, realm to a certain degree. And when people hear the word kind of space or the term space industry, they most of the time imagine astronauts. They imagine rocket scientists as well, potentially. But I'm sure that there are other kinds of careers that are also needed in the space sector and industry. Maybe careers that are more connected to our daily life that people might not know about. And so for the young people here in the audience, first of all, thank you for joining us. For the young people in the audience and potentially people who might be watching online later, what are possibly some of those careers that they can aspire towards, and what are some skills that they should be developing today to achieve those careers in the future? Anyone would like to answer? Ed, you want to go for it?
Well, so yeah, and I can speak more from the less technical side. I think my colleagues can, do a much better job. But it really is because the space industry has grown so much, really just in the last, really 10 years. Because it seems like SpaceX has been launching and landing rockets for a long time now, but that really wasn't that long ago. And so in that short amount of time, we went from not that many satellites in orbit, less than 1,000 for a while, and those were mostly government. And so you didn't have a lot of people that needed to be involved in space. They probably did study aerospace engineering with the idea that they would always go into space. And then suddenly, over the last few years, SpaceX has launched 9,000 satellites. And they have plans for many more in other places. Now so I have a friend who grew up, he was a welder. It's a good career, it's a good job. He had no thought whatsoever of doing anything more than, he thought welding a ship would be the coolest thing he ever did. He's a welder on the SLS, the rocket that's gonna go take humans back to the moon. So and it's the most amazing thing, and he gets it, he understands this is the craziest thing he'll ever do. A kid that grew up on a farm in Nebraska is welding the rocket that's gonna take humans to the moon. And there's all those things. I know space lawyers. Space lawyers is a big deal now because if you're sending a satellite up, you need a contract, you need insurance, you need financing. So I know people that, again, they never would have thought about going into space, but space is now an opportunity. All of the sciences, obviously, there's lots of things. And then eventually, as we do move humans more and more to space, space medicine is a big deal. Doctors that, are going to work on, deal with all the things that we talked about that are hard in space, and even eventually treating people in space. We've got a space nurse here coming up, I think. So I think, it's less about, obviously the technical things that I think my colleagues can do a lot better. For me, though, it's really I think understanding space, trying to, A City on Mars is one of the best books. It's a really great book to understand space, but it scared my daughter out of wanting to live on Mars. But she understood so much more about what space meant and appreciates it. And so I think that's the thing, is take these kind of opportunities, learn about space, kind of understand where it is, and then as your career path moves up, when you see that opportunity and somebody recognizes, oh, this person gets space, they understand it, they're going to gravitate to it, you'll be in a better position.
Anything else?
I mean, Ed summarized really good different aspects of the space ecosystem, that the medicine, law, and of course the engineering is seems to be fundamental. But when I see my back, 20 years ago, when I maybe first launched my rocket, back then at the university, we were so excited, and we were looking for the hardwares that we want to try to find from somewhere. But for now, in my opinion, if you go to secondary school, they are building rockets. I mean, the next generation is way much faster, way much confident to focus the space projects and have better problem-solving skills. So in my opinion, next generation will do more. So I even met some people who are architects. They are building rockets in space conferences. So basically, the information now, we can achieve the information, access the information easily. So in my opinion, in the space ecosystem, these boundaries are not as before. So be curious, try to be a problem-solving skills as an individual. And in my opinion, as Ed mentioned, the space medicine is very, very important, because we are talking about going to the Mars. I mean, you need to sustain yourself psychologically at the beginning, and then physically. So that will be a key impact.
Thank you so much.
I'll only add one kind of area that hasn't been mentioned, which is we need more communicators and artists and people in the cultures to also be kind of, they have a space science literacy that they can then take what we're doing and communicate it with the rest of the world. Because one of the problems that I've noticed is that we work in our little niche area and we do these things and then no one knows about it. And I think that's something that we really need to fix. And one of the areas that we're lacking is science communicators. We don't have many people who are both scientists and communicators. Shout out to Dr. Sian again, because she's also an artist and a geologist and a science communicator on top of being an astronaut. And I think it's really important to tell the world what's doing in a way that's factual and that's not, lending itself to aliens and things that are not true, for example.
And I'm so glad that you mentioned this point and added this, because especially when it comes to artists and the role of artists in societies and in communities, is artists take concepts and look at things that are happening around the world and are able to translate them to us in very creative ways, in multiple forms, and tell stories that otherwise might not connect with people in the same way that it connects when artists translate those concepts. So absolutely, I'm glad that you mentioned this. I don't want to hog the conversation and be the one asking all the questions, but I do have perhaps one or two more questions before I open it up to the audience. And one of those questions is to you, Dr. Ozan. You're in the field and you're the person who sometimes when we talk, we say, oh yeah, this is not rocket science. You're the person we're referring to when we talk about rocket science. And so you have worked directly on rocket development, launching rockets. You've launched more than 20 rockets in your career. And understand the technical aspects behind it and some of the challenges. So can you talk to us a little bit about what are some of the challenges that face us as humans when it comes to building and launching rockets? And what has making mistakes or failure taught you through that process?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's actually the fun to be in the rocket field when you go into that every day to the launch field. So that do you mention about the 20 rockets are the ones that went to space. So I mean, in my life, I don't remember maybe almost 100 rockets that I participated to in directly in the launch operation, development and the design phase, but specifically for some certain level of went to the space. So during this journey, actually, yes, it seems it's a dangerous job to do. But if you follow your safety protocols, if you follow your design aspects step by step, it's the easiest thing to do, in my opinion. Because you follow your steps that when you design, you will do check. After check, you need to test. And the most important thing, if you do rockets or if you do some hands-on practices in your life, do testing too many times. Before sending a rocket to space, do the test as much as you can, check in each assembly and the points that you do, and then when you feel comfortable and when you pass through all the safety procedures, then launch the rocket. If you check to the industry, I'm not considering the SpaceX, the other rockets that considered more small launchers. Most of them are failing. That's because they didn't do the test. There are too many companies in Europe, in Australia, that I know. They are developing small rockets compared to the big players, compared to SpaceX and so on. They are doing small rockets, but if you check the videos, in the first one, they failed. The reason is not only the technical, because they didn't do enough tests to improve. So, some of the failure points that I face is about chemical explosion, let's say. Chemical explosion is very critical. You can overcome this to choose the correct material. So when you build your system, just check the material compatibility. For example, if you use titanium in the oxygen, don't use it. You burn, you explode the rocket, for example. You need to check in each chemical and each the component whether it is compatible. So I had a couple of small explosions in my life, but it was not, let's say, dangerous that much. It was a small explosion because we had a very good safety protocols. And the systems that we assemble like a puzzle, when it fails, we know it will fail in this point. It will not cause any dramatic failure.
Thank you so much. My one last question. There were so many more questions that I would have loved to discuss, but I hope that some of the people in the audience might ask them. But my one last question to you is, what is a question that you hope, or you hoped I asked you and I didn't? What is one piece of information or one thing you would like to share with the audience and you want to make sure you say before everyone leaves here? A question that you hope I asked you, but I did not ask you.
You were too good. I don't think you left us anything. Do you have anything?
I don't think I hope that you asked me, but I can share one really fun fact about Mars that
Awesome.
I always love the chance to share. Did you all know that it snows on Mars? What does it snow on Mars? There is ash, yes, that's correct. It snows what? And there's icebergs, there are large ice sheets, that's correct. Liquid methane, no, but you're getting close, you're getting close. Sand, there is a lot of dust in the air. Dry ice, who said that? Yes, it snows CO2 ice on Mars because it's just that cold, that the temperatures in the polar regions are essentially enough for there to be CO2 snow. There's also aurora on Mars, you know, like the aurora that you see, except that it's all over the entire planet. So that's one of the things the Emirates Mars mission was able to discover 2 new kinds of aurora around Mars that we've never seen before through our instruments. So yeah, I'll nerd out about Mars the entire day if you let me, but those are the 2 fun facts that I love sharing with people.
Thank you. Anything else you would like to add, Dr. Ozan or Ed?
No, I mean,
Okay.
you are so good, and
Thank you.
I
Appreciate
think
it.
we can
Thank
ask
you.
questions from the
Thank you.
audience later.
All right, let's open it up to the audience then. Any questions that you have? Yes. Do you mind introducing yourself first before you ask your question?
Hi everyone, my name is Muhammad. I'm actually owner of the pie shop as part of the Misa's food residency. So I'm really happy to be here with all of you guys.
I do want to say something now that you're speaking. I was going to mention this at the end. However, before you leave tonight, please stop by the container outside. Muhammad is the owner of 3.14 Pie House, Abu Dhabi's first dedicated pie place. He has incredible pies. He's a food resident here. We have a program where we support basically people in the F&B sector to experiment, develop their products. And so he's currently our resident outside and serving really good sweet and savory pies.
Thank you. Khulood explained it better than me, so I appreciate it. So I have 2 questions. You mentioned that there were no aliens in space. So I was wondering, what do you define as an alien? And is it like ET or is it just, you know? And my second question is posed to all of you. Can you tell us more about Area 51? Controversial, but I know.
I'll give you the Area 51 question.
Mohammed asked the questions that I really
real
wanted to ask,
questions.
but did not.
Okay, to be clear, it's not that there are no aliens in space. It's just that we haven't discovered any definitive proof of aliens in space. Given how many planets we think there are in this universe of ours, the likelihood of there not being other creatures or life out there is, in my opinion, this is my belief, pretty low. I think that, you know, we've discovered, my husband did exoplanet science, so we've discovered up to like 6,000 exoplanets so far, and these are just the ones that we've detected. So we predict that there's hundreds of millions of planets out there. So it is a big chance, well, there's a chance that there is life other than ours. We just haven't discovered it yet. And so one of the research areas for Mars, for example, is that maybe there was life on Mars in the past when there was a more habitable environment with a thicker atmosphere, slightly warmer temperatures, and so on. And so there are lots of experiments on trying to see if we can find traces of extinct life on Mars. It would probably look something like microbial life. That's what they're searching for at least, but they might not find anything. So it's not that there are no aliens, but we just haven't found them yet, or they haven't found us.
Does
Area
that
51,
satisfy?
Area 51.
Does that satisfy your need? Yeah.
This is a rabbit hole you could spend a lot of time, because if you think about the lifetime of the universe, 14 billion years, or we're 4 billion years old. Humans or even life on Earth have only been for a few million. Like just even the time frame of like when some life might develop, that it could have been out there, could have been past, and why we haven't seen it yet. It's fun. So I could tell you about Area 51, but then I would have to like flash you all and you'd forget it. It's actually, I just did. You've all forgotten it. Sorry. The cameras have been erased. No, there is a fun movie called Age of Disclosure, if you really want to get into this, because there is like, this is super interesting. Like, I don't want to like pretend it's not, because there is a lot of this. We've had people testify in the U.S. Congress, about this, and because and it's not necessarily that we're trying to figure out if there's alien life. There is not. We do not have aliens hidden somewhere. We're not doing studies. You know, it's just, if there was, we would know, right? It's too hard to hide.
Scientists cannot keep a secret. We
Yeah,
love talking about the stuff we discover. If there were aliens, you would have heard about it by now.
It's too, it would be too unlikely, but the reality is though, the reason we talk about it though is there is a lot of what we call like unidentified anomalous phenomena, UAP is what they call it, and you know, because there are things, and we actually want to dispel the idea that it's bad to report something because like you're going to get made fun of because you saw an alien, you know, right? Because we want pilots to report things, we want people on ships to report things, and most often it's probably going to be a weather phenomenon, but it could be, you know, somebody doing some kind of surveillance or somebody with some kind of, you know, so it is a really interesting phenomenon. I mean, President Trump actually just announced that he was going to declassify a bunch of stuff, and so, but yeah, it's a question that obviously we're all interested in, but I don't think we're going to get an answer that's going to, you know, be a new sci-fi movie anytime soon.
Yes, we have a question here and another one here.
I've got two questions.
Okay.
Right? One
Introduce
first-
yourself to us. Who are you?
My name is Ragham Muhammad. I'm 12.
Thank you for being here with us.
You're welcome. I've got two questions, one for Dr. Ed and one for Dr. Noora. I'll start off with Dr. Ed. So I have a question. Do you think that if NASA, right, had the amount of funding that the US military got, do you think we'd have the resources or the technological advancements that would allow us to shorten the trip to Mars, or maybe to actually withstand the gravitational force that we'd feel or the lack of that we would feel in space, or the 3G gravity that we feel in Mars?
What a great question.
That is, yeah, like
Good one.
genuinely, and not a doctor. Don't ask me anything technical, but I really appreciate that. When I talk at schools, one time a kid, like it was like 6 years old, was like, "Mr. Marsman, Mr. Marsman." So I'll take that. That would be, you know, honestly, I mean, it's, you know, the NASA budget, it's a lot of money,
It's
but
like $1 billion, yeah, but like-
it's like, you know, it's a lot of money, but compared to, you're right, compared to the military, it's not even,
A fraction.
yeah, I mean, like less, you know, 2% or something. So, yeah, I mean, we would do vastly more because space is expensive, period. Space is really expensive. It's hard. It takes a lot of resources, takes a lot of time. You have to bring a lot of things together, just like, you know, I think Dr. Ozan mentioned, you know, Unity, it takes so many different fields. You can't do anything in isolation. And so that would be one of the things that if I had more budget, you know, I'd bring a lot of scientists together. I'd try to make sure people are interacting because, you know, like, what would it take for us to go? We'd have to have like nuclear electric propulsion or...
Yeah, definitely. Not the existing ones. Like you need to develop some small nuclear uranium in the spacecraft, and then you can reduce this duration to journey.
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, so, but and it's a question we ask all the time. And to Dr. Noor's point, you know, like we have to invest in these things. You know, it really is. It's a choice. And we often have to invest in things that we don't know what the answer is going to be. You know, we have to give ourselves a chance because we will never find the amazing thing. Maybe we'll never find your aliens if we don't go look. You know, so that's an investment we have to make.
Could I ask my second question, Dr. Noora? Okay, so about the dry ash or the you know, the past and present microbial life on Mars or whatever, right? So I saw like something online that said that Mars, maybe like 1 billion years ago or something, had water on the planet, right? So if that were possible, and with the dry ash combinations like the ice that maybe could melt or something turn into water, and the temperatures at some points being 20 degrees, which is actually like, you know, I think it's possible for life to exist at those temperatures. Also the fact that Jupiter is protecting it as same as the Earth because of how close they are together, and the fact that Mars is actually closer to the Goldilocks area place than any other planet besides Earth. Do you think it would be possible that under the right circumstances, at any point in time, past or present, could life exist, like, at all on Mars?
Excellent question. I love your questions and I love your enthusiasm and your curiosity. And yes, you're right that Jupiter has this magnetic field that, or sorry, this gravitational field that kind of deflects a lot of the really bad potential asteroid impacts and so on and so forth. The answer is It could have been, yeah. There was, so actually, as part of my thesis, I studied water on Mars. And there is water on Mars currently. It's just not liquid. It's ice or gas, mostly ice. However, there are clearly geological traces of rivers that must have flown in the past that formed these channels, and we know they were formed by water and not some other kind of liquid because of the chemical traces and the way that geomorphologically, or like the shape that it forms. So yes, water did flow on Mars in the past. I don't think any Mars scientist will question this, or any scientist will question this. Whether or not it was there for a long enough period of time that life would have bloomed, we don't know yet. We don't know if these were transient flood-like events, or they only lasted for a few hundred years and then it was dry again. We don't know if it was completely too cold or not. So we don't know, and we need to send more missions to be able to understand that. And I do want to say that, yes, if you put the entire military budget into space, you would probably find out that answer sooner rather than later. But of course, that's not going to be the case, and you probably want to be spending it on things like cancer research and like spread it out into like other things as well. But thank you for those questions.
There's one part of my question you didn't answer.
Go ahead.
So it's along with past life, right? I wanted to know if under any circumstances, any time period, any perfect, perfect sequences over hundreds of years, would it be possible that in the future, without human contact, could any type of life, even microbial life, small life that you could find in ice, is that possible to exist?
At the current state that Mars is in, it would probably be very difficult. There's one scenario that I can imagine that might make that happen. If a giant asteroid hit Mars in the future, it would input so much heat and energy that it would create a thermal environment where water could be liquid. And those kinds of impacts, by the way, they don't just like dissipate the energy in a matter of days. If it's large enough, it might last long enough time. That our rovers that we sent, if they weren't clean enough and they happened to be in that right place, those microbes might be able to finally multiply or something like that. So that's the one scenario that I could imagine, but the astronomical chances of that happening are pretty low. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, you have a question.
I had like a project.
What's your name?
My name is Rima.
Hi, Rima.
I'm 9 years old. I had a question because I had a project about Uranus a bit ago. I wrote in it, Uranus trains diamonds. Because that's what I found out in school. And my friends told me that that's not true. Is that right or not?
So,
Yes.
just to repeat the question, she was asking if it rains diamonds in the planet Uranus, right? I'm going to say that I actually am not entirely sure. I didn't study that planet, and I never did any research on it, and right now I'm blanking. But there are planets outside of our solar system where the conditions are likely to have been with a high enough pressure. So to create diamonds, you need to take carbon, which most wood carbon-based life is made up of, and you need to put it at a really high pressure. And then that would create something like diamonds. On other planets outside of our solar system, based on their gravity or their size and their potential temperatures, they think that might be the case. I'm not entirely sure about Uranus, but maybe we could check that together.
Yeah, I can, and I actually just,
You
but
Googled
this is
it?
actually one of my
Googled it?
favorite
Okay.
stories.
That was going to be my homework tonight.
Well, no, but this is, and I double check because Uranus, because what the story is, I love to tell this story, and actually it's true. And Uranus and Neptune especially, we've studied Neptune a lot more, but Dr. Noora explained it exactly right. The conditions are so intense that the carbon forms and it comes down. And so yes, if you could go there with a basket, you come home with a bunch of unfortunately we can't get there and you would be crushed before you could leave. But it's absolutely true. That's the craziest kind of atmosphere, the kind of conditions that exist all over all over our solar system.
Thank you. Thanks, Ed. I believe, thank you for your question too. I believe there's a question somewhere over here. Yes. Hello.
Hello,
What's your question? What's your name first?
my name is Adwait. I'm 5 years old.
Nice to meet you.
Adelaide.
Thank you for coming here tonight. So what question do you have for us?
If there is lot of suns in the space, why is our space dark?
Oh, that's a very good question.
I love that.
Great job.
And I don't know if you've seen his shirt. He's got he's got space shuttles and stars. So he came on brand.
And it's dark also on his shirt. So why is it dark if there are so
Really
many
good
suns?
question. I love this. So, the reason why it's dark in space is because in order for us to see the light of the sun, it needs to reflect off of something. So when you look at the sky outside, when you walk outside and you look at the sky, it's blue because the light of the sun hits it and reflects off of it, and you are able to see light outside. If you didn't have that air, you wouldn't be able to see the light of the sun because it has nothing to reflect on. So you go outside of the earth, there's no more air, there's no more anything for the sun to hit and then reflect back into your eye. So it's going to be dark unless you turn around and look directly at the sun. And you should never do that, even here on earth, because it will hurt your eyes. And that's the only reason that we have light on earth is because of our atmosphere. So space is dark because there's no atmosphere in it.
If you don't mind, I'm going to actually, Dr. Sian, would you mind telling us what Earthlight is? So this is here.
Yeah, so I was really fortunate to spend 3 days in space, and I got to go and see the Earth from that orbital perspective. And what I learned from that experience was this term Earthlight. Earthlight. And what that is that when you're in low Earth orbit, you literally get bathed in Earthlight. And so it's the transformation of sunlight by our planet. So sunlight is the full electromagnetic spectrum, but as that sunlight comes in and starts to interact with our planet literally transforms sunlight into its own unique phenomena known as Earthlight. So when we go outside during the day, we're not in sunlight, we're actually in Earthlight. And that transformed me and my view of the planet when I was up there. And so you can think of it like this, like, does a fish know it's in water until it jumps out of water? And so for me, I had to go into low Earth orbit and look back at our planet and feel the energy that was coming off of our planet, which is Earthlight. And that was a transformative overview effect moment for myself, was to have that. And when you think about when you step outside and it's a full moon rising and you're walking in moonlight, think about how that makes you feel, right? We all love moonlight. Now imagine you're in low Earth orbit and you're being bathed in Earthlight, how that would make you feel about our planet. And so Earthlight is the world we live in.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much for the question. I believe we have one question here in the corner. Yes.
Hi. So I need to say that space was never my thing.
Sorry, do you mind introducing yourself to us?
I'm sorry, I'm Monica.
Thank you, Monica.
But I represent myself like this, that space was never my thing, never. But then I met one amazing guy who is now very kind friend of mine. And I love the space, and I love his vision. But I would agree with Dr. Noora that I think in UAE is not enough informed, and we don't talk about the space and education and everything. So I would ask Dr. Sian, what is actually her bringing her here and in UAE?
Yeah. What brings you to the UAE, Dr.
Oh,
Sian?
that's a great question. So I'm here with Blink Space, and Mac, stand up. And so he's the one who I've been working with, and doing education outreach, and thinking about how do we get people interested in space flight ready through outreach, education, being able to do really cool things in the space sector around building rovers and testing technologies. And so I have been traveling the world looking for where I would like to create, what I call Jedi space, just, equitable, diverse, and inclusive space for all of humanity. And I came here for the Dubai Air Show last year, and I fell in love with the region, and met up with Mac, an old friend, and his vision for what is happening here with UAE and how innovative and forward-thinking and inspiring and diverse the community is. Just when I look around, I feel at home here. And this is it's a great feeling when you've traveled the world and then you find a place that really inspires you, particularly when you're thinking about the future and what we can create together. And so hopefully in the near future, this will also be my home, and I'll be able to share my space and experience with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any last questions? Where? Oh, sorry, we did not see you there. We're getting a mic to you. Let us know what your name is.
Sacha.
Thank you, Sacha. What's your question?
In this future, this rocket will be much bigger than a normal rocket to reach the Mars, and we need someone faster to reach the land to grab the one to survive. And he planning to teleport their foods to fix them by slabs, and they have the laboratories to fix their experience with life. And planning to get AI robots to get back to rocks and diamonds and melting the lasers from the ice causes to melt and making world fizzy, and making all future many years later you will be all worked in this day. That's incredible.
That is
incredible.
Yeah, that is an incredible future.
You're right.
You.
It's going to take a lot to get us there. Thank you so much for that. I did want to say, because he mentioned it's going to take us a lot to get there, and the rockets are going to have to, we're going to have to build much bigger rockets.
Yeah.
I want to congratulate TII for their successful launch of their rocket a few weeks ago.
Yeah. Thank you. So actually, what Noora mentioned is, so the development of the rockets in the UAE is improving, and in TII, Technology Innovation Institute, is a company based in Abu Dhabi that's focusing on R&D, research and development. So a portion of the project is development of let's say, an advanced and unique rocket technology. So we launched 2 weeks ago in Abu Dhabi, outside of Abu Dhabi in an island, the first hybrid rocket systems that developed in-house in the UAE. So it will be very good and advanced milestone for the big systems that we will focus now.
Wow, congratulations. All right, and with this great piece of news, I would like to end this evening. You're all welcome to hang out after, but I would like to just conclude the conversation. I know it's getting late and I see a lot of children around, so probably it's way past bedtime. But thank you so much for joining us this evening. I hope that you have learned something. I hope that you've enjoyed your evening. And if you haven't met someone new who you haven't talked to before, please do that before you leave. And don't forget to stop by the Pie House outside before you go as well. Thank you so much and have a good
Thank
night.
you.
مع السلامة.